Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Data Institute. I'll be starting the talk in just a minute or so. I'm just going to wait to allow everyone to join the room. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the University of San Francisco's MSDS seminar series in data science. My name is Sean Butcher, and I am the Partnership Director for the Data Institute. I do have a couple of announcements before we begin. You can see on the slide currently up before you that we have a certificate starting soon, the Intro to Data Ethics certificate, beginning on March 23rd, and you can find out more about that certificate and register at the address given. Also, for students planning to join the 2021-2022 cohort, the deadline to apply is March the 1st. I also want to call your attention to the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We're going to leave some time for questions at the end of this talk. So if you have any questions during talk, please type them in to the Q&A section, not into the chat section, and we will address as many of the questions as we can at the end of the talk. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Deeksha Chugh. Deeksha is an alumni of USF's MSDS program, and she's also a machine learning manager at Square, where she manages a team of data engineers focused on the growth of Square's products. Welcome, Deeksha.
Thank you, Sean, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. We'll talk about, let me share my screen and then we'll start our seminar. Awesome. So as you can see that today I'm going to talk about how we're using data science to fuel Square's growth. So first of all, let me give you an introduction about myself. I'm Deeksha Chugh. I have an extensive background in mathematics and data science. I've held several positions in the industry as a software engineer, data analyst, machine learning engineer, machine learning lead, and now I'm leading teams of machine learning engineers and data scientists at Square with the focus on personalization and recommendations. A fun fact about me, I practice yoga and meditation regularly and have won awards in yoga competitions during my school years. So let's jump right into the agenda. We'll cover the basics of growth marketing and challenges associated with it. Then I'll do 2 different case studies where I'll share some of the techniques we have used at Square for growth marketing. Then in the end, I'll summarize this presentation so that you have some takeaways from the presentation. So first of all, why do you have to care about this? The reason is that there are over 500K new businesses that start in US every year, and over $200 billion are spent on marketing each year. So as an industry, this is an area where a lot of money is at stake, which means more opportunities and need for efficiency. So I'm sure everyone is familiar with the term marketing, but I'm not sure how many of you have heard about growth marketing. Basically, as you can see here, growth marketing is marketing 2.0. It takes the traditional marketing model and add layers such as A/B testing, value additive blog posts, data-driven email marketing campaigns, SEO optimization, creative ad copy, technical analysis of every aspect of users' experience. The insight gained from these strategies are quickly implemented in order to achieve a robust and sustainable growth. Additionally, growth marketing focuses on the entire life cycle of a particular user, starting from awareness, then acquisition, activation, then retention of that user, then generating revenue from that user, and then that user referring different other people for that product. At Square, our approach is to continue to improve the seller life cycle by providing them with the right recommendations at different stages of this life cycle. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges with growth marketing. When you are at different stages of this life cycle, such as acquisition or retention, where you're trying to add more users to adopt your product, you want to know what's the right user for your product. So, for instance, in case of Netflix, they want to know which users they should show advertisement to so that that person starts using Netflix. And suppose they identify Deeksha as myself as the right user to target, they need to know how to reach Deeksha. Does she use Facebook? Does she use Google, Mail, Twitter? And suppose they identified, Deeksha is a super user of Facebook, which I'm definitely not. Netflix needs to decide that how much money they're willing to give to Facebook to show an ad to myself. So Netflix can decide. Netflix also needs to decide at whether they want to show an ad on weekends or weekdays and at what time. So there are a lot of questions that these product companies that need to answer when they're solving challenges with growth marketing. Similarly, we are here just talking about the acquisition stage. And we talked about so many different stages within growth marketing lifecycle. We need answers for many of these questions for each of the individual different stages. So let's jump into how we can solve for these challenges. No surprise here, we all know the answer to this question, and the answer is data. Data is what allows us to move from traditional marketing to growth marketing. Due to massive advancement in computing space and availability of big data storage options available for companies, it's incredibly easy for companies these days to use the concepts of growth marketing to improve their user experience and personalize them. Companies that are successful today have realized the importance of using data science and machine learning for solving these challenges. As a result, you'll see a ton of open positions in companies right now, as well as in the upcoming years, that require machine learning to personalize this user journey for them. Before we jump right into the case studies, I'd like to give a brief introduction about Square and what Square does. Oops. I guess the slide didn't load, but in a short summary about Square is that Square is a financial services company, and we are providing merchant services such as Square Register, different hardware products, different software products such as debit cards, such as Square Card. We have lending products such as Square Capital. We have a consumer-facing product such as Square Cash App, which provides many different features. It's a peer-to-peer transfer, money transfer services. You can also do investing with that and many other features. So that's what Square does. So let's talk about our first case study called Human Outreach Recommendations, in which I'll talk about our journey of using several different machine learning models and later building a product using those models. So what was the problem we were trying to solve? It was simple. We needed to improve the impact and efficiency of our account managers. So account managers are those people that talk to our sellers on a daily basis. Let's dig deeper into their struggles. First, Square has millions of sellers with different business types and different sizes, revenue segmentation. Some are large, some are small, some are medium. In terms of business types, we have restaurants, retail stores, contractors, and many different types of business industry that we serve. With that diverse set of sellers using our products, and not just one product, we have over 30 plus first party products and 200 plus third party product integrations. How does each account manager decide which seller to call every day so that they can maximize the revenue and they're reaching out to the right seller who needs our help, and what's the right time to call a particular seller? As you can imagine, different people close their businesses different time, they might be busy and so on. So how can we decide when to call a particular seller? And lastly, which is that what they should talk about, what product they should talk about. For instance, for a restaurant seller, this restaurant Square point of sale is the right product for them. Maybe not. They need a different product at this time. So they need to be equipped with information and recommendations so that they can have an effective call with the sellers. So we started our journey by analyzing all the data sources that were available to us and also looking at sources that were free outside of Square, such as census data. Some of the internal data sources that were of interest to us were seller behavior data, such as payment history, their business categories, product usage, call history, and revenue information. So using all of this data, one of the several models we built using this data was the product propensity model. So we built a multi-label classification model because we had to predict for more than 15 different products at one time, instead of building different classifiers for different products. So every product was represented as a label of 1 and 0. 1 stands if the seller is using that product, 0 for seller not using that product. It was a typical classification model setup, but instead of building 15 different pipelines for 15 different products, which might not be scalable as we add more products to the pipeline, we built just one pipeline, which was easy to scale using several hundred features, and use SHAP library to do the feature selection for those features. And in the end, selected 200 features for that model. We tried different modeling techniques, but finalized that we want to use light GBM model with hyperparameter optimization because that provided us with the best performance in terms of precision and ROC and AUC curves. On the right, you can see for different products how our precision recall looked. For some of the products, it was really good where we had predictive signals, but for some, because those products were either new or we didn't have enough data, we didn't get as much performance gain from the model. So similar to these product propensity models, we also built several different models such as best time to call model, churn model, lifetime value model, all of which helped in increasing the efficiency of that particular account managers. The best time to call model tells us what day of the hour is the best for a seller so that we can call them and have our call connect rates be maximized. And then what's their lifetime value? Like, I'm sure you must have heard of LTV. So lifetime value of the seller is important because that helps us understand whether how much revenue and profit they're going to generate over the next couple of years. And that helps us in identifying the right seller to target. We also estimated the expected value of that seller using the model scores as well as their lifetime value, and built an extensive A/B testing framework that allows us to test within the account managers whenever we launch either new models or variations of existing models, and also understand the lift that is associated with this application. So how did the application flow look like? So essentially, it started with you product prediction scores, turn model scores, and then combined with other models such as best time to call and many others. All of these scores we fed into a pipeline, and we combined with the lifetime model. We estimated the expected value of of various millions of sellers, and then had an assignment job which basically takes all these sellers and pick the top sellers which are have the highest expected value, and then assigns them to various different account managers, which are hundreds of them at Square. And for every account manager, they get a certain list of sellers to call every day in a dashboard, which is our front-end application. So this is how the application looks like, where on the top, they can see what their some summary looks like what's the date, how many merchants they have called today, how much, what was their success rate. For instance, 6 connections happened today out of the 11 calls they made. And then within this dashboard, they can see the best time to call a particular seller, whether it's 12 p.m., 14, and so on. What's their least busy day? What's the time zone of that particular seller? What's the business category of the seller? And then the last column, you can see that the score is the expected value of that particular seller. So it's ordered in terms of highest to lowest expected value. And then it shows the account manager that they can talk about these 3 different products, such as Square Online Store or Checkout, because this seller is a professional services and they are highly impacted by COVID. So let's just talk about these 3 different products, and then have a fruitful conversation. We built so we built actually this the score. We changed this during COVID so that it reflects the COVID-19 score, but we have now changed it to a different score. So the result of all this, when every account manager sees different personalized screen and list of calls every day that they need to make, it makes them really happy, and their job becomes much easier now with everything automated and also intelligent. They don't have to worry about who to call. They don't have to worry about when to call. They can just use the list provided to them or the recommendations provided to them on every day. And they can also use the products that we have recommended to them. They can use those products in their conversations. And the business impact of this application was that now we have a smart and efficient sales process. We're talking to twice as many sellers in 2020 as compared to 2019. Call connect rates have significantly increased. We have increased product attachment rates from the seller. Our revenue has increased from the account management, and we've decreased the churn because we're reaching out to the sellers who need us the most. Now, the next steps for this application is how can we make this application more scalable and reliable now that there are several hundred account managers using this application on a daily basis? We need to have some SLAs around it and reliability around it. And now that's why we've decided to build a web app with a better UI, and we're hiring software engineers and technical product managers to design the roadmap and vision for this product, so that this actually becomes an internal product which can be used very easily. So that was our first case study. We'll now move on to our second case study, where we provide recommended products within our application, within our app, similar to how Amazon does it for their products. So in this case, as you can see on the right side, the more from Square section, whenever a seller comes to their Square dashboard home, they see this more from Square section where they can see all of these different products. But there are so many products. How can we provide or show them the best personalized product recommendation to them? So, and many of these products are freemium products so that the sellers can try those products for free. But the challenge is that with the ever growing ecosystem of our products, it's hard to have a static list of products that are relevant for every seller. That's why we built a machine learning model. It was a Netflix style recommendation model that used several different data sources, as I said, mentioned previously. But this time we also added new data sources with respect to the in-app data, where we were tracking like how often this particular seller is using this application, how often they're using, what different pages they're clicking, and so on. So that type of information was highly predictive and was important for this model. So for this recommendation model, we use several different type of techniques. We use RNNs and BERT, which is the Google Bidirectional Encoder Representation Transformer model, under the hood, and then provide recommendations so that we can power this more from Square section on Dashboard Home. The hope is that we can use these predictions across our many different product applications, such as on our public website or other in-app products, such as invoices, appointments, and so on. So the business impact of this model is that we can now have better seller experience, more personalized, and we'll have an increased engagement within the app, and we can increase conversions and profits for Square. And lastly, which is very important for Square, is that increasing the product awareness of Square. We have several different products that currently our sellers are not even aware of. So increasing the product awareness is very important for us right now. So the next step after building this model is how can we build this into a full-fledged product? And in order to do that, there are many different pieces that we need to solve for before we can actually say that this is a product that is providing recommendations. First, we need the availability of all real-time signals available so that we can predict the recommended products at real time. We need fast APIs to serve predictions. We need to make sure the predictions are consistent across platforms and products so that when a seller is using our invoices app and our seller is using dashboard app, they're not looking at completely different recommendations. They'll be confused, like why Square is recommending us different products. So having that consistency is important. And then lastly, we need to also do some randomization for reinforcement learning. Summary, just to summarize what we talked about today, is we discussed that the growth marketing space and how growth marketing is a space where machine learning can have a huge impact on the business and users. We discussed two different case studies. One was human outreach recommendations, where we improved the efficiency and the impact of account managers using machine learning. And the second one was how we personalized the more from Square section within our app using Netflix style recommendation systems We're using many different advanced machine learning techniques, such as like GBM models, deep learning, TensorFlow, embeddings. And the reason is, within growth marketing space, there is no regulatory requirements such as which happens in banks on what models they can use. So we're free to use whatever model, which makes this space very attractive to me and many of the machine learning engineers working in my team. And lastly, the cool thing about all of this is that we're not just building, one-off models, solving business solutions. We're holistically thinking about how we can use these business solutions and which uses machine learning under the hood and make data products out of those, whether it's external or internal. At Square, we have a lot of machine learning external products as well. uh, so yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. And then lastly, in the end, I want to mention that we have several open positions at Square. Please apply if you're interested. There are data scientist roles, there are machine learning roles in various teams. You'll get a chance to work with some very smart people and also learn a ton. Now I'm happy to take any questions. And yeah, I guess we were only 30 minutes into the presentation, but it was short.
Short but
Hope that's
sweet. Thank you, Deeksha. So yes, we're now going to spend some time addressing your questions. Firstly, we have a question from Yashwant. He has a question on product propensity model, tech specs. How do you handle use cases where customers have high propensity for multiple products, basically a ranking problem, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have multiple products, and some of them, for some of the products, we have there are products which are very similar. So obviously, we have a seller that will have um, high scores for multiple products. So we use some kind of ranking algorithm to rank different using some normalization techniques to rank different products. And of course, that's not the right way, because when we started building this model, we didn't have that many products. But now, as we're adding more products, this has uh, turned into a recommendation problem more than a classification problem. So our next step is, to solve for this challenge, we need to move away from classification type approach to recommendation, which we did in the second case. So yeah.
Okay, we have another question. How do you deal with data imbalance?
Yeah, we're using some of the classic techniques, undersampling, oversampling, smooth techniques, and for different models, different techniques work. But actually, for models such as like GBM, you don't need to do a um, ton of imbalancing techniques, because the model handles that pretty well.
Flora asks, does the pipeline model take in any qualitative feedback from account managers? If so, how?
Yeah, there is a qualitative feedback loop. It's not as advanced as we would like, but we let account managers basically have um, within their app, they can say that, oh, this particular opportunity was useful, this was not useful, so that later we can use this data to actually personalize the experience of the account manager using some of the more advanced techniques like reinforcement learning.
Yashwant has a question about algorithm choice for personalization. How do you start the project to create any POC for baseline performance before building and deploying a complex RNN BERT type model?
Yes, that's a very good question. So we we typically try simple techniques first, and especially for our team who's very advanced right now, whenever we have a new problem space, we try to see if there are existing models that fit, and we can use that into this application so that we can quickly learn from that. And if that's not the case, we use some heuristics to understand whether some of the heuristics can actually improve or move the needle, which we're trying to do here. And once we've done that, we then move on to more advanced techniques such as RNN and understand like how much lift we can get as a result. In this case, in the second case study that I talked about, where we use some of the advanced techniques, was that we're already using a very smart algorithm which uses TensorFlow under the hood, and we wanted to improve on that, and that's why we needed to move to more advanced techniques such as BERT and RNN to further improve our model. So yeah, the key is that you want to start simple. That's one of our principles at Square, that we start small so that we can quickly learn and iterate on it.
Thank you. Sue says, super presentation, and asks, in production, do you have a scoring model that uses results based on the subset of data or a sample of data, or are your recommendations modeled on the entire universe of records?
I wanted to read this question again. Is it from Sue?
From Subos, yes.
Okay. In production, do you have a scoring model that uses results of ML models based on subsets of data or sample of data, or are your recommendation model entire universe of records? Yeah, this is a good question. So it depends on model to model. So for some models, you have ton of data, and in that case, if you're like the type of machines you're using, if that allows you to use all of data, we use it. But if it becomes too big, we might want to use some subset of the data. But in most cases, I would say we use all of our data to be able to use in our training pipeline, because the training doesn't, we don't have online training right now. The training of the models happen in an offline fashion. So we can use, GPUs, TPUs, whatever, to train our models using all of the data.
Somebody asks, in terms of job responsibility, what is the difference between a data scientist and a machine learning engineer in your team? And how do they collaborate with each other?
Yeah, so data scientists, again, this, as industry is evolving, these different, positions are coming up. So traditionally, data scientist was doing everything, but now there's a need for product teams to be able to understand some of the insights about their product, using A/B testing, or maybe building some offline models to understand the trends and behaviors of the user. So whenever you're not doing any productionalization of the model, you're classified as a data scientist at Square. And I'm sure different companies have different definition, and I can only speak for Square. And at Square, the differentiation is mostly about, are you coding and productionalizing on a daily basis? If you are, then you're a machine learning engineer. But if you're using models in an offline fashion to drive product insights and running experiments, then you're classified as a data scientist.
Okay. I don't know if this is a bit open-ended, but could you talk a little bit more about your A/B testing framework?
Yeah, so there are many different frameworks that we're using for A/B testing. There are popular companies like Optimizely that provide those solutions. But internally for one of the use cases, we've built the A/B testing framework ourselves, which has how to randomize different assignments to different. So suppose your randomized subject is account manager in this case, then you want to randomize on account managers, and then you want to finalize like how much percentage of your uh, account managers you want to keep in control, how much you want to keep in experiment groups. So you need to make that flexible so that you can tweak it later on. Um, and then after the assignment, you need to monitor those results on a regular basis, so that you need regular dashboards and metrics that you can see and understand, so that you're not blind when you're running your experiment, and you can track those metrics over time. So the main components is like the assignment logic needs to be correct, and then monitoring of that experiment needs to be correct. And if there is some business logic that you need to apply on top of your after the assignment, we are using Python to do all of that. So everything is built in Python.
Okay. Yang Yang has a question about implementation for models which are built for account managers. Is it your team that implements the front-end application, or is that handled by another team? He asked this question because you know, the battles in priorities between different teams.
Hmm. Yeah, so the front end is definitely built by a different team, but we at Square move very fast, and I think just because we work pretty nicely, we were able to get this done easily. But I can see the battles that I think Yang you're talking about. Um, so yeah, in this case, it was a different team.
Okay. Surab asks, do you have a global score for various users, or is it different models for particular use cases, such as growth, risk, fraud?
Yeah, it's different for different use case. It's hard to have a global model score which is useful for every use case.
Hashneet asks, you mentioned that for new vendors, there is a data scarcity. How do you deal with that?
Um, you new vendors, I don't understand the question.
I guess people who are new to, they haven't built up a lot of data, they're a new business, they have a scarcity of data.
I see. So from the vendor's perspective,
That's what the question's asking for new vendors, yes.
yeah, I can, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that side of the story. Yeah, but I can imagine like if there's data scarcity. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Swathi asks, what are the tips that you would recommend for someone who's new to the data science industry?
Yeah, a lot of tips. Let me think. If you're new to the data science industry, so you can be at different stages. So for instance, if you're looking for your first job into the data science industry, you want to have meaningful projects that is on your resume, and which shows that you have actual experience working on data science problems. So, for instance, like at USF, we have practicums that are done with different companies, where you get actually real-time exposure to working on challenges challenges that actual companies are facing. So you want to be involved in that kind of project experience before you can actually get a job, because that's as a hiring manager, when I'm looking for looking for a data scientist or machine learning engineer for my team, I look at that. In terms of skill set, I think Python is absolute must. SQL is important, and you need to have a knack for investigation in some sense, because that is very helpful when you're trying to create new features. You need to be comfortable with data visualization, comfortable working with numbers. Um, so yeah, just if you're already in a job, then I'd say just keep on building new models and explore new spaces.
Okay. Gabriel asks, have you considered capturing and storing reviews data about the products and put these insights into word clouds or using Tableau or Power BI for the sellers?
Yeah, I mean, so I am not familiar with if this has been done at Square or not. I can imagine like the product teams are doing this behind the scenes. We're a platform team that supports all the product teams, but I can imagine that they are reading the reviews and they are trying to understand the product insights, and product analysts or data scientists who are working closely with the product teams are doing that so that we can improve on the products. But I'm not familiar with what kind of efforts have been done.
We seem to have another question about data scarcity. I don't know if it's differently, but how does data scarcity affect the models applied to new customers?
Mm. Yes, it's definitely challenging. Without the right data, you really can't build a good model. So it, it we're buying a lot of data for new customers, and without that, I don't think we can build models just using public data sets. So there are a number of companies that are coming up and providing marketing data to different companies or selling different data. So it's a big problem in the industry to model for new sellers, and especially with new laws coming with respect to privacy, it has become extremely challenging.
What advice do you have for current MSDS students who will be soon looking for their first data science job?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as I said before, that just uh, of course the coursework is very important, but the actual uh, practical implementation of the models with your practicum companies is very important, because those are the projects that you will be talking about during your interviews. So focus on that. And then the interview preparation is extremely important. Like if you are doing a great job in your course and you just go to the interview without being prepared, thinking that, oh, I think I know everything, and not prepared for the questions, that's not going to work very well, because you need to be preparing for job interviews during the last few months. And I think we have at MSDS, I remember having an interview course or something during the end of the semester.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the case right now.
We do have, yes. Kevin asks, how would you make the transition from working as a data scientist to a machine learning engineer?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was a data scientist at Radium One, which was an advertising company prior to Square, and I joined Square as a data scientist. And then on the job, I learned about how to productionize the models, how to build pipelines, and learn from the peers on how to be efficient. So it was it was training on the job mostly.
We have several questions about the jobs that you posted. For people who are still studying right now and don't graduate till August, is it worth them applying for those jobs? Would they still be considered for when they graduate in August?
um yeah, let's think. August feels like a long time because we're hiring right now. um I think what you can do is you can still apply, So your resume is in the system. So we have a recruiting system that we're using. So you should definitely apply. And also, if you're looking for new opportunities, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you're hiring for any interns right now, we'll see if we can hire.
Damon asks, I recently graduated from a coding boot camp. Do you have any advice for where he could seek practicum-like opportunities on his own?
I mean, there are internships that are available that I'm sure many startup companies are giving away free opportunities. Um, yeah, honestly, I haven't done that, so I don't know how open these companies are to these internships. Um, but I feel like internships are probably the best way to get your hands dirty. Even if it's unpaid, I'd say just take it for a few months, and once you have on the job experience, then you can get a paid internship or a paid job after that.
A few people have asked, do you have any positions for people who don't currently have experience, work experience in the field?
Um, we Yes, actually, for machine learning engineer, we were open to people who have just a master's degree or have a bachelor's degree because we have positions for various different levels. And even for data scientists, we have positions at various different levels. So feel free to apply for these positions, and I'm sure the recruiter will reach out to you if your resume is relevant for that position. But yes, we do have positions.
Okay. Sue asks, can you describe the data stack at Square? Like what databases do you use? What type of ETL solutions do you use?
Yeah, we use Snowflake as our database, and we heavily use Python for writing our pipelines. We're looking into Spark and so on to improve our speed of our evaluations. We're using Google Cloud. We have AWS so that we can run any big machines and any models on these big machines. Um, so yeah, I'd say Python, Snowflake, Google, GCP, AWS, and so on.
We have another question about hiring of women in the field. Are there any networks that you're aware of for women trying to enter the field?
Um, I think there's a women in data science uh,
Or in your
group.
company?
Yeah, within the company there is an internal, our group, which is a women ad group. But I'm not familiar with any, which is visible to you. Um, but yeah, if you're interested, and you feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help.
Okay, a few people have asked questions in the chat. If you still want to ask the question, could you enter it in the Q&A section? That's where we see that's where we're going to be answering questions. So we're going to give it a few more minutes to see if any more questions come in. Nitin asks, you mentioned that machine learning has a good business impact. Was the impact measurement causal?
Yeah, we're using causal techniques
Yes.
to measure the impact of the machine learning, and that's really important. So yeah, there are many different techniques such as propensity matching and robust synthetic control matching. Um, but we've realized, over time that none of them uh, supersedes the actual A/B testing. So wherever we can, we try to use A/B testing to measure the impact whether instead of relying on causal techniques.
Okay, well, I'm going to do one more question before we wrap up. Sue asks, is there a demand for product managers requiring machine learning expertise, or is product management of machine learning driven handled by data scientists?
Yeah, there. Um, this is a great question because we're dealing with that right now, where up till this time, we data scientists and machine learning people were responsible for, doing the project management or product management. But at Square, we've realized that this is a challenge, and we're hiring now product managers uh, for focus on helping machine learning teams. So we have two different positions right now. One is for the measurement science team, and one for my team, where we are hiring for PMs. Of course, the machine learning expertise is essential for those roles. But if you have a great experience without machine learning, I think you can still be considered. But I feel like in a few years, this field is gonna grow a lot.
Okay, well, I think that's all the time we've got. So thank you so much, Deeksha. That was a very helpful talk, and you generated an awful lot of questions, so a lot of interest.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much, Sean, for moderating, and thank you everyone for asking such amazing questions.
Yes, thank you everyone, and thanks for your time. I want to thank you all for attending this talk, and I look forward to seeing some of you in our future seminars. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.